Is there a big, giant, planet-sized weapon in Force Awakens? Yes. And does it blow up? It does blow up. And so there are undeniable, parallels. I very purposely wanted to sort of revisit the old in order to start and tell the new. And that was the challenge. And again, for those who hate it, I could not respect your opinion more. And for those who love it, I question your sanity.
What did you say?
For those who hate it, I could not respect your opinion more. And for those who love it, I question your sanity.
What's it doing? Stupid fat honey.
Alright, hello YouTube. We're back. We're doing our Force Awakens video. I know everyone's excited for this. This one's excited for it. He's back. We may have fixed the audio situation. It may be better. It may not be better. Let us know. We'll see what happens. But we're going to be doing Force Awakens, and we did a little review on it. We watched it back again just to be refreshed on the movie. And this movie released December 18th, 2015. The first thing to kind of set the stage, the first video, I would highly recommend watching it. I thought it was a good video.
Watch it.
And two, it really sets the stage for this first.
It sets a stage.
But the thing here that I want to talk about before we get into the movie is the actual fans. Where were they at going into this movie?
Yeah.
Now, this is something that's hard to judge for me, because as we talked about in the first one, I wasn't deep within the Star Wars community at this point.
I was.
So, Luke, I want to know what your thoughts were, like what were your expectations going to this movie, and what your opinions were going in.
So even after like all the stuff we talked about, you just gotta watch the first video. But to summarize, even after all the negative things that was going on before this movie came out, after Disney acquired Star Wars, I was feeling bummed, but I was still hyped for this movie with the trailer. Like when I saw Han Solo and Chewbacca in it, I was like, I feel like it's could be good. I was excited for it. That changed.
Okay, well, so when you came out of the movie theater, what were your thoughts on it?
So my first thought the very first time I saw it, so keep in mind, this was the first Star Wars movie I ever saw in theaters, because I was just a kid when Revenge of the Sith came out. My parents didn't want me to see the quote-unquote killing the younglings
because it was PG-13.
Yeah, I was like a wee little lad. And I'm not including the Clone Wars movie, because that's its own thing. So this is the first... Okay, no, I saw The Phantom Menace when they re-released it in 3D. I saw that in the movie theater. But I saw it front row seat. And it was awful in 3D because your neck's like this, just watching Jar Jar spit at you. But I will say, so this is like the first new Star Wars movie like ever that I saw in theaters. So when I left the movie theater, I was like just blown out of my mind. I was like, oh, it's a 9 out of 10. Like that was my literally. It's disgusting when I say it now, but that was my first thought. But it's just because of it was Star Wars. I was like, we got a new Star Wars, 9 out of 10. I didn't think about it. So I only saw it that first time, and people were saying like, oh, the movie was okay. A lot of people said it was great. A lot of people said it was like pretty mixed bag. But I felt like overall the reaction was relatively slightly more on the positive side than it was the negative side.
That's how I would have said.
So I didn't see it again until it came out on DVD, and we got it on DVD, and I watched it for the second time on DVD. And the second time watching it through, I realized my opinion I have now, this movie was just kind of...
Yeah, so I'll give you my side of this. So again, was not big in the Star Wars community, right?
Big Star Trek fan right here.
My dad is a massive Star Wars fan. And I mean massive is in the originals. We have so much Star Wars stuff from when he was younger. Like I have a certain picture that's in my room right now that's hanging on my wall. That one, Luke. But it is from my dad. Like we used to have this den in my old house where it was like basically his room, and it had all Star Wars stuff. So he was super hyped going into this movie. I know that. I, again, was someone that I was a prequel guy. It was the originals. It was mainly the originals being brought back. It was mainly like all that stuff. So I wasn't like as hyped, right? Like seeing Han Solo or any of these characters didn't really mean that much. I respect the originals. I like them. They're great movies. I didn't have that emotional tie to them. So to me, I was like, oh, okay, well, I'll let my dad go see the movies. If he likes it, maybe go see it. The only tie I really had to Star Wars at this point is I had an Xbox controller with Kylo Ren on it, and I thought he looked pretty cool.
That was your only tie to Star Wars?
At this point. It's been, And even till this day, the only Star Wars movie I have seen in theaters is Rogue One. I've seen all the other sequels, after they'd already, been released. For DVD, or they were on Disney or Plus or something. But, with that being said, my dad hated this movie. he was someone that just hated the direction in which they took a lot of the original characters. He didn't like that they basically destroyed like the extended universe and all that stuff. He was someone that was a big fan of that. So, to me, I hadn't really watched it until a year after probably it had been out, and I thought the movie was okay. That's kind of where I'm still at. I think it's a okay-ish movie.
Yeah.
But again, I can see why a lot of people like the movie, especially when you're looking at it coming out in theaters. Star Wars hasn't been there for a while. You're seeing a lot of the characters we haven't seen on screen in years. So again, I definitely understand, because I do think, like, from what I can gauge from like just looking back, I think the movie was at least on the positive side. I don't think there was as many negative reviews as there was positive reviews. I think a lot of reviews was either the movie was, fine or good.
Yeah.
But there were people like that, definitely.
I think the biggest complaint this time, like even this early on, people realized like kind of was just nostalgia bait.
Yeah.
Like we're doing another Death Star,
Yeah.
like something like that.
This movie reminds me a lot of the way we perceive No Way Home. It's a lot of
I
nostalgia.
had to remember what No Way Home even was.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Spider-Man movie.
It's a movie that was like really well acclaimed.
Why would you bring that up? They're gonna hate us now. We're the only people that don't like that
Okay,
movie.
well, I'm just saying. I feel like that's a movie that's not going to age as well as it did. But who knows? We might be different on that. If you want to see that video, it's on a different channel. It's on the other channel. But let's get into the actual movie. Some of the things going on. What was J.J. Abrams' approach here? And one thing I'll give J.J. Abrams credit for. It did seem like J.J. Abrams at least cared about Star Wars. Like, it seemed like he was at least trying to maybe send a love letter to Star Wars. It was a lot of nostalgia. It seemed like he did like the originals at least. That's not something we're going to say in the next Star Wars movie.
Oh, fuck the next one.
So, at least I will say that was something that was good. But something that we talked about in a quote that I brought up in the last video is it seemed like there was much more emotion, and that's what they were going for. How did this make you feel? Not exactly, why did we get here? Why is this happening? Does this make sense? It doesn't seem like he has a lot of that going on in this movie. I don't know if you agree with that, Luke, or
about the whole where they don't explain, they just
Yeah.
make you do the emotion thing.
if you have anything else you want to add on, like what JJ, like his approach to these movies were.
Well, his approach was to take a look at the original expanded universe,
Yeah.
realize I don't want any of that, get rid of it all,
Yep.
and make a whole new thing and make Kylo Ren's name Ben. And
Yeah, something else it seems is that there wasn't a lot of creativity going into this movie. Like for certain
No,
things
not at
there
all.
was.
you could okay, essentially this whole plot, this whole movie, I can't think of anything that's new from this one. So after Return of the Jedi to now, right? So Return of the Jedi ends, we see the little fuzzy fur balls,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
little bears are dancing, and then in the like all the new remasters of the movies over the years, they added more planets. But the Empire, the Death Star is destroyed. The Rebellion, basically the New Republic, like the first beginnings of the New Republic, is really starting to take shape. Darth Vader's dead. Palpatine's dead. So we're like Luke Skywalker's, the whole thing is he's going to be bringing back the Jedi Order. We're on an upward spin, and then ignoring all the expanded universe stuff. So let's just say none of the expanded universe stuff happens, So at this point, in terms of canon now, remember, expanded universe is gone. The Jedi Order is becoming back with Luke Skywalker. Flash forward 30 years later, where we're at now is New Republic sucks. They don't have a military. The Empire is basically back under a different name. Luke Skywalker's gone. All the Jedi are gone. So we went from literally going like, oh yeah, it's an upward spin, to immediately going to the aftermath of a downfall without seeing the downfall itself. It's like we missed a huge plot point right here. Like we're going up, and then we immediately go to the conclusion. We don't see how did it spin down.
Like, I think inherently a much more interesting film or series of what they were trying to tell would have been telling us how the First Order even got to the point they were at by Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing, this is going to be something we talk about with the character sections with Leia specifically. I find it very hard to believe that Leia is just kind of I guess she's basically just been sitting around and the First Order has just gotten to this point. Again, I'm not going off of any books, nothing
No
else.
books. We're talking about just
the movie. What the movie tells us.
What the movie tells us.
And also, we're judging Force Awakens as a standalone movie. We're not judging it as like The Last Jedi, what it's going to happen with the
We're doing it for
characters.
the minds of the people who, when it just came out, they have no idea what happens next.
So again, we are tying it as into the originals because it's a continuation of the original. So it still ties in that. We're going to judge it to that standard. But just because Disney had 2 different directors, there's things that are set up in this movie that are either completely destroyed by the next movie or just they are not a thing anymore.
Last Jedi is going to be a 5-hour-long video.
It's going to be bad. But one thing I don't know how this happens is Leia is this person that we see being kind of the person that is really taking the charge to the Empire in A New Hope. She is someone that has first-hand experience to trying to take down the Empire and all these things. You would think that she would be really serious on how we are forming our new republic, our new government. She'd be someone that'd be very important in that. There's pieces missing here as to how the First Order rises, and like Leia just seems like the movies make her seem like she did nothing.
And see,
during this time period.
Another big thing I don't get is they call the troopers, the rebels in this movie is the Resistance. It's not even the New Republic's own military because assumingly they don't really have a military. So we already have a Resistance. Here's my question though, right? From your understanding of just watching the beginning of this movie, and my understanding is that right now, New Republic big, First Order small.
Yeah.
So why would the Resistance be going against the small? I feel like the First Order in true name should be called like the Resistance against the New Republic, and the New Republic should just have like militia.
Because think about it, right? The Empire in the originals is the power. They are in charge, right?
In charge.
Like there is still a Galactic Senate that then like Sidious or Palpatine gets rid of in the first movie in A New Hope, right? Isn't that what happened?
Yeah, there's like a whole Imperial Senate, but like Palpatine, like basically just
he like dissolves it basically. There's a scene that Darth Vader and they're having everybody's talking and we get a little plot dump, but that doesn't like happen in this movie. It doesn't make any sense to me why there's like a little guerrilla force that's protecting all of the Republic.
Like it's a guerrilla force. Okay, so like big country has no military. Little country attacks big country. And to defend the big country, a third party militia, but that's also funded by a big country.
Yeah.
Makes no
sense.
That plot should have just been the New Republic's military versus the First Order coming out.
They made it very convoluted. It's like, what are we doing?
We don't have our own military, but we secretly pay these guys to work as our military because we don't want to have a military. What the fuck?
There's just so many issues I have with this setup because inherently the Resistance should be the people with more funds. They're the one being funded by the government.
Like, and I don't get why is there any like government resistance to funding the Resistance? It's like you guys didn't like the Empire. You guys took down the Empire. You see another Empire coming out, and you're like, we're not going to deal with this. What?
It makes no sense. It's like because we now see that there's like this new Death Star thing. It's like did nobody bother stopping this?
You're telling me like, okay, and that's Starkiller Base, right? So it's from the planet Ilum. They took the planet Ilum and turned it into circular base. Now, Eric, for the people out there who don't know what Ilum is, and the planet Ilum, this is what Ilum is the planet where the Jedi get their lightsaber crystals from. So it's a sacred planet for the Jedi, right? Luke Skywalker, you're thinking, making a Jedi New Order, you think he would be like, okay, Ilum's going to be probably pretty important to me when I do a Jedi New Order, for lightsaber crystals, for tradition and traditional values. Same thing, I figured he would also, let the Republic know, because at this point, and by the end of Return of the Jedi, you're in the thinking that New Republic and Jedi New Council are going to be basically working hand in hand together. You'd be like, oh, New Republic, this planet over here, it's pretty sacred to us. We should probably keep this protected, for our own Jedi traditions and whatnot. You're telling me this planet is get carved a giant trench in the center of it, all the rocks taken somewhere. We don't know where the rocks are taken.
Who knows?
And they have the whole giga cannon built inside of it, and no one knew this was being
nobody.
No one knew they were doing this. It was like the most obvious planet they could have done something like this on because of all like what are you talking about?
Like think about certain things we see throughout Star Wars where it's like the Death Star plans, like for instance the clones, all these things that are like being like kind of kept secret that are very important that Palpatine does, and then we get to this and it's just like let's just basically announce we're doing it. Nobody cares.
That's what I'm saying. It's like
it's mind-blowing, but that is just the setup.
We're like literally at the setup right now,
and that's not even to mention like Han Solo, the setup of where they are, how things have gone there. we're gonna get there with the character for that one. Okay, because that one's not as pivotal to the setup. We're talking about just like the atmosphere where
We're talking
everything's
about
at.
how did we go from Luke Skywalker dancing with teddy bears to now no one, no one's winning. Everyone's dead.
Yeah. So, Luke, I want to ask you, since you're more of a lore man, how would you have like started this trilogy? Say, Force Awakens. None of this happens. You are the person that's going to start it. You're picking up 30 years after Return of the Jedi. Where would you have gone?
This movie I haven't put a lot of thought into. Like, The Last Jedi is an easier answer, but this one's... Okay. So, I know a lot of people didn't like the prequels for the political part of it.
Yeah.
I know that's a big thing. But I think they could have told a really good story is if this movie begins kind of like how Revenge of the Sith is ending. Where we see the Republic falling down, and then Palpatine and his empire, they take over. If they want to, now this is just saying, if they want to tell a story about the next empire coming out, they should tell it like that, where we see why the Republic is now failing. How is it faltering? I want to see, like, why is Princess Leia, like they explain in some of the books, but why is Princess Leia not in this big role? Why is she just working with the Resistance? How is the First Order being formed? Who the fuck is Snoke? Like, all of these things. Like, I want to see, this movie should have been foundational for setting up the next ones, because it's like A New Hope. It was okay that it just started you right into the action, because the whole time we don't even know much about the galaxy. We're seeing all these things just happen right at once. This movie, it's like we already have so many stories beforehand, and you want us to tell new stories without trying to connect it. Like, there's almost no connection. It just jumps right in. I want to see how it said earlier, how we go up, Return of the Jedi, we're going up. I want to see where it takes a turn. Where does the Republic start to falter again? Where's all the Jedi at? How's the First Order being made? Instead of just instantly going to... First Order is a big thing now. It's huge. We're all over the place, but no one never talks about it.
Something that I think is interesting about this film is that I think if this film had... Like, if there had been no Star Wars before this point, this film would have been viewed much better.
It would have been fine.
It would have been fine. But because Return of the Jedi is where we end, and it is, that series is one of the biggest in all of movie history, you can't just jump from there to there.
I think...
And expect there's no question.
I don't think Disney realized how, like, when you take on a new franchise, you're also taking all the baggage with it. So it's like, I felt like they just wanted to be like, oh, let's just tell new Star Wars stories. The thing is, though, if you want to keep a cohesive universe that keeps loyal fans interested, they've been interested since 1977, you got to connect it. Like, you can't just be like, completely new, nothing else.
So the way I would have done it is very similar to the way you're doing, because you can keep what they wanted to do.
Yeah.
Except, here's what's even more interesting. We're hearing now that they want to do this whole new trilogy with Rey, which I find, that's a whole different topic. But the way you could have done that much easier is if we had done this period where this trilogy could have been about the fall of the New Republic. It could have been about establishing the First Order and their significance. And then when we get to another, trilogy, you could basically repeat history. You could basically have us doing Revenge of the Sith, the prequels, but do it in a better way. And then you could have, again, the originals once again. You could really repeat history is basically what they were trying to set up, but do it in a better way.
We already established they're hell-bent on just repeating the original trilogy stuff.
Yeah.
So if they want to just repeat a plot, they could have had this movie begin just with Luke Skywalker training and Han Solo's kid.
Yeah.
And, like, just to be the story of, like, the setup of what set Ben Solo down the drain. Like, the whole first movie could have been from the different perspectives. It's Princess Leia's perspective is all about the government. Luke Skywalker's perspective is seeing the Sith side of things, like the Kylo Ren side of things, where he's taking a turn for the worse. And that's how you get bridge the two together. It's like, from Princess Leia, we see why the government's failing. From Luke Skywalker, we see why the Jedi Order is failing. And then continue the series after that. We skipped that. We just jumped right into it.
Yeah, you could have even, you could have had this being, how we had the Darth Vader and Anakin story, which is kind of like the first 6.
Yeah.
You could have had this being Kylo's, 6. You could have done the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
But
that's if you're still wanting to repeat stuff, because we know they want to repeat stuff.
That's with the knowledge of them wanting to repeat stuff. You could have actually done.
You could have done anything else. We could have had an Admiral Akbar trilogy.
But that's the basic. That's the basic. Like, okay, this is how you do what they wanted to do, but better.
Eric, going back to that first question, how would I change this? I would have the first movie be only Jar Jar Binks and Admiral Akbar, and it's them just doing shenanigans in space.
We need more Jar Jar.
We need more Jar Jar.
Not the actor. More Jar Jar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is kind of our big setup. And let's kind of talk about the overall plot. So the overall plot is, we're getting this, idea that the Jedi aren't around, all of that, like we just talked about. We see the First Order is looking for this map to Luke Skywalker. That's kind of the MacGuffin of the entire first movie is how do we get to Luke?
Where's Luke? Where is he?
There's a lot of personal investment that why people want to find Luke. They want to bring back the Jedi. They need help. The First Order is just kicking everyone's ass, apparently.
Oh, that's another thing. That's another thing I just want to say, right?
Yeah.
Imagine you're Luke Skywalker. You helped take down the Empire once, and you're like now going into retirement. The whole galaxy is now like, well, we need to find this guy so we can do it again. Like, we can't take care of it ourselves.
Yeah.
Lightning's going to strike twice here. Like, we know.
That'd be enough to make me turn to the dark side.
Like, honestly, like,
I'd
I'd
be
be
like, screw the Republic.
no wonder why he didn't want to be found. He's like, are you guys shitting me?
Are you
I helped
kidding
I
me?
did it once. I did it once already.
But yeah, we know there's like personal investment from Kylo. Let's not even talk about Last Jedi. Like we know we get a line basically that like Kylo had some falling out with Luke. We just don't know what the circumstances of that was. We don't know what turned Kylo.
Yeah,
That's the question that's for the next movie.
And then we get cool glimpses and like flashback. Like
We
remember
get one flash.
the singular flashback where we see Kylo Ren with a group of cool dudes in armor and uniforms. So we're like, just based on that flashback alone, you're probably thinking that's probably around the time that he went bad.
Yep.
And it looks like they slaughtered a lot of people. Could it have been a Jedi that they were killing all the Jedis? Can't say 100% concrete, but it's like that's probably that flashback hints back at when he became a baddie.
Yeah. But so we're on this planet Jakku. All right, we see
Jakku.
We see all the stormtroopers. We see Kylo. Everybody's kind of going down to Jakku, and we go down to the planet. Again, this opening is very similar to A New Hope. It's very similar.
Very similar. We instead of Death Star plans, it's map to Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. But that gets us down to the planet. We see BB-8. BB-8 goes to warn because Poe's talking to I don't remember the old guy's name. I'm gonna be honest.
Old man. All you need to know is he's like, you may call her General. I call her royalty. It's like, oh, yeah, okay.
It's like he never comes up, I don't think, ever again in the entire trilogy. He doesn't come back up in this movie. I know that. But I don't think he comes back up in the entire trilogy. He's just some guy that like he has a lot of it seems like
that's
he has a lot of
another
connections
thing.
to people.
It's like it's like the way this movie begins, it makes you think we should know who this guy is. But if you don't read I guarantee he's in a book somewhere. If you don't read
he's in a book somewhere.
If you don't read that book, you're like,
who's this guy?
How does this guy have Luke Skywalker's map?
He's got Luke Skywalker's map.
Why did Princess Leia not have this map?
That's what we're going to talk about with Luke and his character. I have a problem with that. But so we have all this. They're basically discussing, and he gives the map to Poe. This will begin to set things right or whatever. Fine. So the stormtroopers come down, and Kylo comes down, and Poe and BB-8. They're trying to escape. Okay. And the stormtroopers, they're not very subtle. Okay, this is not the Empire where, like, we're on Tatooine and there's a couple stormtroopers. They're, like, asking around trying to find the... No, we're just slaughtering the entire village.
Yeah, I'd say that's kind of like they really just wanted to make the bad guys look like real bad guys. Yeah. At least with the stormtroopers, you kind of saw them talking to the aliens a little bit. These guys just straight up execute all the aliens.
Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, they just
now, you did bring this up when we were watching the movie that they were mainly at the beginning.
Yeah, they were
in the beginning. They were mainly shooting and killing people that were trying to shoot back. The people that weren't shooting back, from what we can tell, were just rounded up.
Yeah.
Now they don't have a good fate, but from what we can tell at the beginning, maybe their heart was in the right place. Maybe they got some bad orders.
Maybe it was.
But we see that there's this one soldier that's he's a little hesitant. He's somebody that...
Well, so when we first see him, the first time we see him, his buddies putting his blood on his face. So you're like, oh my god, this guy literally just watched like one of his squad mates, one of his brethren die in front of him to these merciless resistance members and shot him.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. And I think Finn, for me, of all of the characters that are introduced in this movie for the new characters, is the most interesting to me. He's the one that had in my opinion, the most interesting setup. Where I was like, okay, we've never seen a stormtrooper in any of the main movies where we could be inside their head. He could explain maybe what's going on with the First Order, being programmed, like just giving us more information onto them. And there's some really interesting conflicts a character like Finn could have.
You have so many things. Like the first, one of the first things you could have done is like, he gets to this planet, first mission. He watches his brother, basically, blood brother, battle brother, die in front of him. Yeah. One of the things you could have been like is like now he's like angry at the resistance members for doing it, like because he doesn't know better, but it's like they just go the simple route.
Yeah, because that's the thing is like Poe is the one that shoots this guy, and this never gets brought up ever again. Like it seems like Finn has like maybe this is one of his buddies. He don't care. I can tell you that right now. He don't care. But well, that's later on. That's kind of a character thing with Finn that we'll talk about later. But I think there was good character work for Finn for like the first like 20-ish minutes maybe.
Yeah.
Before they like actually escape.
The moment when Poe meets Finn is when Finn's plot falls apart.
Finn starts to unravel. But
and
Finn,
that's like Finn's third scene, like third scene or whatever. Like
yeah, it's around there. But yeah, no, Finn like had a good setup. Poe is kind of the character where he's basically like Han Solo,
but like a Marvel movie.
Yeah, he's like a Marvel movie Han Solo mixed with like Luke because he's also like a really good pilot. He kind of takes on that role of Luke piloting in A New Hope. And the one that takes on the Death Star. He's kind of like a hybrid in there. We don't really get a lot of development from him in this, as we'll talk about later. But more or less, we see all this happen. Kylo comes down, and they get the old guy. BB-8, and just like New Hope, has these plans.
He got the Death Star plans.
He's going across the desert. They're off by themselves. And Poe gets captured. Why Poe goes back to try and shoot stormtroopers and Kylo when he could have just walked away like BB-8? I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
But we do. The whole reason it is because we do get a funny scene of watching the stormtroopers run up to Poe. Yeah, he's frozen. It's like a 5-second scene of them running.
Well, okay, I know why that Poe got captured because they needed this scene where Kylo kills the old dude because the old dude just starts taunting him, saying, "Well, you can't change who your family is," and blah 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 blah.
Another connection that we should probably know who this guy is. He knows who Kylo is.
It seems like a very important character. Well, they try to do this thing where they try to make Kylo as intense, as badass as Darth Vader. Here's my big problem. Raising Darth Vader on his kind of, when he kills the rebellion guy on the ship, is that the dude is obviously lying to him. Vader knows that the plans had to have been on this ship or they were taken off of the ship. So when a guy starts going, yeah, don't know where the plans are, don't know what you're talking about, man, and basically like all that, he knows he's lying to him, and it has to be on the ship or it has to have been put on one of the pods.
Yeah.
So again, this is not the only source of evidence that Vader can get this. Like, there's other ways to get the plans. Kylo, in the meantime, knows this dude. This is all Kylo knows. We don't know how he knows this, by the way, but he knows that this old dude has the map.
Yeah.
To Luke. What does he do? Now, this is character building, but at the same time is irrational. So Kylo then kills him, which shows, Kylo doesn't have a lot of restraint. He's very emotional, kind of
rash. He doesn't think past the first step.
He doesn't think. So what does this doesn't really establish that Kylo is like Vader at all, because Vader is someone that is not like that. Yes, Vader can be emotional, very angry, but he does this for reasons, not like he puts the mission first. Especially when he's very emotionally involved. Yeah. It's like Kylo should be. Kylo really wants to find this map. He's not too happy about, how things ended with Luke, right? We don't know why that is yet, but we know that he is emotionally involved in this. So they kill the old guy, kind of to just show Kylo's this dude. And then Poe shoots at Kylo.
Yeah, so if Poe never shot at Kylo, let's say Poe never went back, he just went with BB-8. Kylo kills old guy. Movie's over. Kylo doesn't know where
he has no idea.
What do they do? Do they just sit on Jakku and like keep it blockaded the rest of Infinite?
Which is probably what they should have done to begin with. I mean, because Kylo really wants these plans. They're very important, or the maps, sorry, I keep calling them plans. But they really want this. And we're told the First Order is extremely powerful. Why isn't this planet being blockaded? Like the Separatists do with Naboo?
2 dropships of dudes. Why not send like almost everybody TIE fighter support? This is why you have aerial support. So if you see someone's running away, you track where they're running.
And we know that they have this thought process because they do it later on in this film. So there's just so many logical inconsistencies with this movie. But so Poe shoots it, and this is a cool scene where Kylo stops like the laser or whatever, the bolt. What would you call it? Like
blaster bolt.
Blaster bolt. Okay. So he stops it. It's super cool. It's cool looking.
It's called a phaser.
Right? But at the same time, what is this going to establish? It's going to establish that Kylo must be very powerful. He's been trained pretty well. If he can do this, we haven't seen anyone else do anything.
He's got the force freeze.
Yeah, he hasn't really done anything. Nobody's done this before. Outside of like Yoda was able to like control the lightning. He went into his like palm.
Yeah,
And he can shoot it back as well, but
Yeah.
we haven't seen anybody do this. Like, this would have been an extremely awesome power during the Clone Wars. Like, imagine, droids are shooting you just like,
Dude, a kid Monday had that. Could have survived. All the Jedi could have survived
Yeah.
Order 66. So this is clearly like a very powerful dark side ability.
and this is going to come back later. When we get to later, when Kylo is getting bitch slapped around, I'm going to bring this up. But for now, okay, it does say that, oh, Kylo, don't be messing with Kylo, okay? He's got some power.
And it didn't seem like it took a lot of energy because all it was just was a
And
beep boop.
I'm not saying that this is especially this early in the film, I'm not saying like this is not unheard of. Kylo did get trained by Luke, one of the most powerful Jedi of all time. There's also going to be this character of Snoke, and we don't know a lot about Snoke, so Snoke could be extremely powerful as well. So I think it is believable that Kylo somehow would have found this power out by some of the training he's gone through since he was very young. But I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with other things that happen later on in the story. But another issue I have here is that Kylo, we know, can like read minds more or less. Or he can get people to tell him. I don't know, is it read minds or is it that people tell him where it is?
I think it's more like reading minds. Because
Okay. Last Jedi, there's a mind connection thing.
I
which-
wonder if it's like, yeah, because I don't know the exact specifics, but it's either like a reading minds or it's more like a link between the two, where it's like he
Okay.
can read their emotion and then based on their emotion infer what they're what they're saying. I don't know.
But this is my issue, is that this power is introduced.
You can crack open your head. That's basically what he did.
But he doesn't use this power on the old guy. He doesn't use this power on Poe on the plane. Remember, they are trying to find the map to Luke. This is very important.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence, because the longer that it takes for them to figure out what their next lead is, the farther away wherever this plan could be, wherever it is, could be further away, could be harder to track down. Right? Just like an investigation. Like, the longer you have a lead that's cold, the harder it is to track down. That's the exact thing here.
And another issue is the moment they get Poe, they go back to the ships. They don't be like, set up a perimeter,
Yeah.
a 20-mile perimeter, says check who's all in the area, gather everybody up in this area 20 miles from now. No.
They just
No. This guy, who we didn't even see on the other side of the sandhill until he shot at us, is probably the only guy that's out here, so we're not going to look for anybody else.
And it's like, they literally patted him down, so they know he doesn't have the map either.
Yeah.
So it's mindless. And the thing is, it's like, they take him all the way back up to the ship, all the way back up to space. Why? Why? Just mind do him and then kill him.
Yeah.
Because we
You
even
kill the
find-
other guy.
Because we even find out later that Kylo knows that this is like the best resistance pilot. Fine, fair. That means he's either a valuable hostage or kill him.
Yeah, literally.
Like, there's no... We gotta have the story, though. So, again, we see Finn has some good character work here where he doesn't want to shoot the innocent people because Kylo basically tells them to kill everybody.
And Finn,
War crimes.
which it's like they were trained since childhood to be like warriors and whatnot. Finn on his first mission watches his buddy die, instantly thinks, probably doing something wrong here. I feel like if you were a kid trained for this,
Yeah.
like the kid soldiers, train your whole life for this, and you watch your buddy die, I feel like he would have had more resentment towards the people because it's like, well, if you guys weren't here, my friend wouldn't have got killed in the first
Yeah.
place. I'm taking it out on you. It's like, no, instantly has a change of heart. Instantly in the first mission.
Well, this is what probably they should have done with Finn, is have him be somebody that doesn't trust, like, anyone. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't trust the Resistance, doesn't trust the First Order. He doesn't know who to trust, right? And that's something that they don't really play with at all. But, yeah, that's whatever. Another thing I want to point out, like, something that the First Order does is that they kind of walk around like they have... Just nobody is going to do anything against them.
That's what I'm saying. They already, even though they're supposed to be, from my understanding, at this point in time, they're supposed to be the small group. They're
Yeah.
already acting like they're the big group.
Like, think about it, just... I'm referencing the prequels a lot, but think about, say, if the Separatists did something like this, or somebody went to another planet, they just executed an entire population of people without any... not telling the Republic nothing. We'd have a whole war going on. Like, it's mind-boggling to me the way things happen in this movie without any logical consequences or anything happening of it. But BB-8, the droid basically goes off. That droid's gonna meet with Rey, and then we're gonna see the First Order go back up to the ship.
Yeah, everybody pack their bags, go home. We're not looking, we're not
Yeah.
searching these huts. We burned all the huts.
Yeah.
We're not looking around for other people within the radius. We're leaving. We're probably gonna find the map at some point.
And then we see Finn having like a breakdown, some like an anxiety attack, which I think it works pretty well for what they were trying to do with Finn's character. I thought it was one of the better scenes. there is like it's a really odd like scene because it's like Finn is like, you know, he's having his anxiety attack and then he's just like over his shoulder, it's just like Captain Phasma's just like, "What's up, man? What's up, man? Give me your blaster or something. We need to check something."
Who told you you can take your helmet off?
Oh yeah, that too. And I'm just sitting here like, because we see that Finn is going to betray them all, and Kylo is going to eventually blame Hux and also Phasma or whatever. But the thing is, while we're also on the planet, this is the only thing I can see to explain why Finn, the programming didn't work, and he's like breaking free. Is he has some sort of the Force is somehow in him, and it's broken through that or something. That's all I
That
can
would have
think
been a
of.
good plot idea.
Because Kylo senses it, right? He senses it. He literally looks at Finn directly, like,
Yeah, Kylo's in the middle of walking back to the ship, and then he just goes, looks at Finn, and Finn's like,
it's this
and then that means
tease.
nothing.
It's this tease that's like, oh, does Finn have some sort of Force connection? Is there something there? And then when we get later on in the film, Kylo's like, "Oh, it's your guys' fault." It's like, dude, you even know, like, when they tell you somebody like helped Poe escape, you knew it was him. Like,
yeah. So Kylo sees this guy. Finn doesn't shoot the farmers. He sees that. Finn goes back up to the space station or whatever. Phasma also knew he didn't shoot the farmers. Also, he's walking around without his helmet on. He seems to be stressing out. Still does nothing. So it's like you have two different high commanding people realizing, hey, this guy, the coding didn't work on, or the program, the training didn't work on. He's clearly having some like second thoughts about things. Maybe we should, I don't know, execute him, send him back for reconditioning, or imprison him. They're like, nah.
And it's just, this is my thing, is that they make all of the villains in this movie incompetent as hell.
See, okay, so going back to whenever we're first, like, when Poe first meets Kylo, this is another issue just with Kylo that I think it just shows that he is not intimidating. Like, I understand that this modern wave of Disney movies and Marvel movies, it's always like the quips and the one-liners, but when we're going to take a look at two different things. Princess Leia meets Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Darth Vader he's no emotion, like, when he talks to people, other than just sheer force. Everybody has a sense of respect and just like also force back at him. It's like they don't take none of his shit, or they're going to be like not in like a joking way, but it's like you're intimidated. I'm going to try to intimidate back. That's how Princess Leia does it. You know, she fights back with her words. That's to show that like, okay, both of them are like strong-minded. Mm-hmm. Kylo Ren, when we first see him, Poe's first thing he does is make jokes with him. Yeah. That instantly ruins any suspense that you have. Like, okay, this guy's dangerous. We watched him kill an old man. That just takes you out of it because it's like, first thing, we see him kill this old man who could use it as a lead. But secondly, he doesn't kill this pilot who's now mocking him to his face in front of all his stormtroopers. And it instantly makes you think, okay, Kylo Ren is just, there's nothing intimidating about him because it's just another Marvel character.
Yeah, that I mean, just think about it. Like, the whole build up to this is supposed to be, Kylo should be taken seriously. He's a very much a bad dude. He's a villain. He should be somebody we take seriously when he's on screen. You then follow that up with, again, the Marvel quips. So it's like the toning.
Do I talk? You talk? Who talks?
Yeah,
it's like a Seinfeld
toning
joke.
In this movie sometimes just awful. I mean, they're just, you can have, you know, comedy also mixed in with darker themes.
Literally, like, take a look at A New Hope, for example. We have serious moments, Princess Leia talking to Darth Vader, and then we have jokes with Han Solo and Luke Skywalker shooting down TIE fighters.
Yeah. They just do not get it right in this movie whatsoever, in my opinion. And there's so many things that they introduce in the beginning of this movie that you're sitting there and you're expecting a payoff. And it doesn't even really happen. Like, I'm not even talking about the next couple of movies. I'm talking about this movie specifically.
Specifically this
sometimes
one.
They just drop plots. Like, they just drop it. Like the whole idea of how Finn is able to, like, break this coding. You would think, okay, there's going to be some sort of payoff to this. He have Force powers. There kind of is a payoff.
What makes him so special?
Not
like,
really.
How there needs to be a better explanation of why is he the only one out of all these First Order stormtroopers that shows a little bit of remorse, even after watching his own buddy die in front of him. Yeah. Like, I feel like that would incentivize him to work, like, be more angry towards the Resistance. I don't know. That's just what I'm.
And they built up some really great points of drama that could have paid off later on that just never come back. Like what we just talked about. Poe killed the dude we're talking about. There could have been a conversation there where it would have been like, well, Finn's like, Poe, why did you kill him? And Poe's sitting here, well, they could have had self-defense, or you're defending innocent people because they were being killed.
They should have had they could have had a moment where like both of them are arguing why their side is what's doing what's right. Like it could have been like Finn's thinking like how the First Order is trying to actually provide stability because we see the New Republic's failing. Well, Poe could have been like, well, New Republic talks about freedom, and we're gonna have an actual debate. See their character building up of when they like realize that maybe both sides aren't exactly perfect.
Yeah,
no, we just instantly go from Finn being like, okay, I'm a resistance
I
member.
think would have been a great motivation for Finn after this moment is him having a very anti-war type like arc, and like having Poe be more of like a war, like this is like almost exactly what they try to do in Last Jedi, where like Poe is very rash. He's somebody that's like very gung-ho, war heavy. If you wanted to go that route, why didn't you just have Finn, Poe be like the opposite sides of the spectrum, and then by the end of the trilogy they're more in the middle, where they realize sometimes you have to take action to prevent other people from dying. That's a really good, interesting idea, where when is violence okay, whether it's you're protecting someone or it's because you don't want a threat to grow like the Empire. And then also you have a character where like, Poe, where it's like, violence and just gung-hoing your way through things is not always the best idea. There's just so many issues like that where they could have done more, which would have made these characters much more likable and interesting.
Yeah, this video, I just realized we still haven't even left Jakku yet.
We haven't even gotten introduced to Rey yet.
Oh my god.
And we have a lot to say on Rey, okay?
I'm afraid of The Last Jedi. I'm afraid of this Last
Dude,
Jedi
Last
video.
Jedi is going to be a long video. So that kind of gets us away, I guess. I guess we should just do the whole First Order plot for like before we get to the Rey stuff and when she comes in. But we then see that Finn, after Poe is interrogated by Kylo, we see that Kylo gets the information that the map is with a BB-8 unit, and that prompts them to go send like 4 guys.
No. 2.
Well, they sent 2 guys, but the 2 guys that are in the TIE fighters.
Well, I like to imagine the 2 guys that are in the TIE fighters are the same guys that just ran to their ships.
Okay. Either way, they send less than 5 dudes to go get this map. Okay. Fair enough, I guess. But
Yeah. So wait. When you think about it this way, right? They send 2 transports full of stormtroopers. Again, I still think a small amount, but to find the map. The second time, when they actually have a concrete evidence of who has the map now they have concrete evidence the second time who has the map, you'll send 2 guys.
2.
You'll send 2 guys,
2.
and then 2 TIE fighters.
2 TIE fighters.
2 TIE fighters.
Where the TIE fighters were when they did their first attack? Who knows?
Who knows?
But, and this is the other thing that I do not understand.
Was there TIE fighters in the first attack? I don't even remember, but I feel like
I
wasn't.
I don't think there
If there
was.
was,
Because remember,
strafed the X-Wing.
Yeah, they didn't do that because they shot it.
Yeah, they shot with a turret.
That doesn't
Yeah,
make any sense.
if someone says in the comments that there was TIE fighters in the first fight, that it just proves our idea that it's even more stupid. Like, they didn't even...
Yeah, also, how would the TIE fighters not see the BB unit, like, just running away from the battle?
Yeah. Don't say it's dark outside. That's a fucking lame... It's sci-fi, okay?
Also, BB-8 is also, like white.
White,
You would see... BB-8 would stick out.
Yeah,
like,
literally.
That's just getting beyond the point. But, yeah, so my other problem here is that Kylo now complains about every single thing that's going to happen in this movie while being completely hands-off. He does not do anything
You went to
to
the
help
fight the first time, why not go the second time?
And apparently this is very pivotal to Kylo's character. Like, of his backstory, his background, wanting to find Luke. He couldn't care less, apparently, in this film.
He's gonna be like, okay, guys, you 2 are the best of the best. We're sending no reinforcements. The whole fight of the map entirely hinges on you 2 stormtroopers, and if you don't find it, you're dead.
Yeah.
And I will blame you if you don't find it.
Yeah. I also want to point something out, because it's going to be important for the next video, not exactly this one. Hux in this movie comes off as a very serious general. They tried to not make him incompetent, but there's just points where it's just like, what are we doing? He just comes off as incompetent because of logically the story. But the way that they wanted him to be is... What am I trying to look for? Like, he's just...
Intimidating?
They're trying to make him intimidating. Like, he is this person that is to be, like, very seriously, like, looked at.
I don't know what it is, though, but I don't know if it's just...
I don't think the lines are very good for the character.
Like,
and I don't think the acting performance is that good.
Because when you look at the Imperial officers in the original trilogy, they all seem serious, like, I don't want to say businessmen, but, like, like, business orientated, like, they're getting down to business. But just, I don't know, when I think of Hux, it just...
I think
it doesn't get across.
I think it's a mix of the writing is not good for the character. 2,
looks a little young.
I think the plot doesn't really help him at all. And 3, I think it's a little bit of overacting. Like, that's times
what
there's
it
just
is.
some overacting that it's just... Okay, think about just like Tarkin. He is someone that doesn't need to say anything, but he just gives off
Yeah,
the
his
presence.
presence is intimidating because it's like
He has that presence. Like,
that's another benefit with like a character like Tarkin. If you see, he's an older man, so it's like he has age, he has experience. That when you look at Hux, I'm just like, okay,
he just doesn't know what he's doing. Apparently,
he looks like a young guy who got into this position because mommy fucked an officer.
Well, it's like, okay, if they've been building the First Order for 30 years, this guy came through like maybe halfway through.
That's what I'm saying. And there's a scene where you see like on Circular Base when Hux is given the like, you know, basically the giant Mussolini speech, like talking about the First Order guys. There's an older man in the background who would have been a cooler leader, like old mustache, gray-haired dude. It's like we need more mustache, gray-haired dudes in this.
Yeah. So more or less, Finn, after all this interrogation goes down, he gets Poe and he's trying to get away. And Finn is not exactly motivated by like, oh, I want to save this guy. It's more like he needs a pilot. He doesn't know how to fly, more or less. He needs somebody to. That's the way I took it anyway. Is that he was just trying to get off of the ship, trying to fly away.
Yeah.
And I think this kind of works because it shows that Finn doesn't like want confrontation. He wants to leave. It shows again if they try to build how serious the First Order is, how intense it is, showing Finn's fear of being caught by them and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, because then we see this chase scene. It's just an action scene to have an action scene, in my opinion. But
also, you're telling me that Finn on his own was able to just get
that's
Poe.
That's another logical thing. But I'm trying to like avoid every single logical thing because we're gonna be here for years.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many logical problems with some of the things that happen in this movie. Like, there's another one we can just talk about is, okay, they go to fly the TIE fighter, and it's still attached by, like, a cable or something. You would assume a resistance fighter, who is the best, like, flyer they have, would maybe know this, or, I don't know, Finn, who has been a stormtrooper his entire life, would maybe know this.
You don't need to be a pilot, you see that, oh, it's attached. It's attached. Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's attached.
And then, this is something I want to point out. Again, the entire build-up of this has been Finn does not like confrontation. He is not someone that likes violence. He's not someone that wants to take life. He proceeds to kill at least 15 stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Or at least injure a lot of people.
Keep in mind, like, where this whole thing starts with Finn is his battle buddy dying in his hands. We go from that, stressing out, he's like, he doesn't know what he's going to do, to, okay, I got to get out of here, to then, bam, 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 yahoo!
Yeah, like, he's actively cheering. That's the part that, like, gets me. It's just like...
Yeah, and
he does not... There's no consistency to this character.
They could have done a moment where it's like, Finn... So, this is okay. If we were restructuring the movie, this is how I'd have done the scene. They're inside a TIE fighter. It's stuck. If we want to leave that in there. Let's say it's still stuck. Stormtroopers are coming, and they're, like, setting up the turrets. Poe could have been like, Finn, I need you to start firing on them. And he's hesitant to fire because he's like, on one hand, if he doesn't, they die. But if he does, he's killing his fellow battle buddies. Yeah. And then it's like he just does it like, you know, the worst of two evils to save his own skin. Because if they want to build a character like that, where he's just trying to get home, not home, but like away, have him be like, I don't want to be doing this, but it's the only way that I can save myself. And let's say they get another thing where it's like he doesn't even target the stormtroopers, but let's say there's like a fuel dump. He explodes a fuel dump, and that causes like things that lets him get out. He could have rationalized, well, I didn't kill anybody, but I also helped by shooting back. Mm-hmm. They could have done something like that, and then it could have been like, Poe would have been like, you're going to help me. I need to know I can rely on you. And Finn, they could have done a whole arc like that. No, they just straight up go to basically Han Solo, like shooting down TIE fighters. Yahoo!
That's what I'm saying, because it's like, Finn to me is the most mishandled character that I think had the best setup of all of the new characters.
Like, honestly, like, I'm not a big Poe fan, and Rey's okay, but, like, Finn could have definitely been my favorite character out of this whole arc, trilogy. They just don't use him wisely.
They don't know. The second... When we get there, I'm going to have some choice words for that movie, but...
He's drinking beforehand.
We're going to be drinking for that one. All right, so let's get to the Rey plot. So that was kind of the First Order plot and all of that. Also, I guess we didn't finish that plot, but Finn and Poe, they escape, and then they're starting to have like some little like random like argument, and Finn just isn't paying attention, and then they get shot down, and boom, they crash land into Jakku. And the argument was about Poe wanted to go back for his droid, Finn didn't.
Yeah, Finn's like, we got to get
we need to
out of here.
Yeah, we got to go, which again makes sense with Finn's character. Didn't really have problems with that.
Yeah, no, makes sense.
So they go down and get shot. Finn just wakes up, and he's been the parachute, I guess, and he just kind of was a little bit away from the crash. He goes back, and Poe is nowhere to be found. ship is destroyed, and that's kind of the end of it. Finn takes, did he have his jacket, or he just
He
take
finds
it?
a jacket in the wreckage because he
Okay.
inside. He's like, "Oh, oh," and he grabs the jacket out.
So Finn has his jacket, and that's kind of the end of Poe for bulk majority of this movie until like the back, like third, I guess.
Oh yeah, you can hardly, in my opinion, you could say Poe is more of a secondary character.
Yeah,
in this
Poe
movie.
is not like a main character in this movie. He's more of a main character in the next movie.
Yeah.
But again, this is gonna come back up again because it's like when we get later in the movie, how did this happen? Like, how is Poe alive? How did he get off the planet?
And going back to what we said in the very first movie, they were talking about how they complained how if you bring Luke Skywalker in, he takes away from all the characters. You don't care about these new characters. Well, you're setting yourself up for people not care about Poe if you don't leave him in half the movie.
Yeah, he's just not a character for most of this movie.
We don't see him at all.
He doesn't really even have any development, in my opinion. He doesn't have a character arc.
No, he goes from being a pilot to being a pilot, like this whole movie.
It's not even like, oh, he's like just one of the resistance pilots. All of that. He's already like the best one. It's established in like his second, third scene that he's the best pilot.
He's a witty pilot, and he becomes a witty pilot.
That's the thing. Is like there's no character movement there, but that's fine. That's another character point we'll talk about maybe later. So Finn then he just starts walking around, and eventually he's gonna get to where Rey's area. And Rey, we get introduced into Rey, and I don't think Rey has a bad introduction. Like there are things they could have done with Rey's character to make her much more interesting. So Rey is this character that she's a scavenger. She looks for like parts, things like that. We see her in what did she go into? A Star Destroyer?
She scavenges a Star Destroyer and she lives in an AT-AT.
Okay. So again, I just want to point this out. She is familiar with the Empire stuff. She's on a war-torn planet of the Empire Wars, apparently.
Yeah.
So again, she should know about this. Just point that out. And we see her kind of barely surviving on rations that. Not even getting full rations.
You get 1/4 of a half of a potion.
She's not living a great life. She's definitely struggling, which is something you could build upon in the story, which you do. And the other interesting part of this that I think they should have done more with that is completely dropped is this idea of, okay, Rey is this person that has basically been abandoned on Jakku. Had to live her entire life basically on her own. Okay, well, we should play with that idea. Have characters question, like, why are you still waiting for it?
She could also have, like, I think, trust issues.
Yeah, she could have trust, which she does at the very beginning with like, Finn. That's
with
it.
Finn, but until she goes, okay.
Like, and that's the thing is that we should even see it even be more, because Finn is the character that Rey trusts, and then Finn lies to her. There should be more of that built into the story.
Yeah, it's like the first person she has contact with off planet instantly lies to
And one
her.
of the best ideas for like Rey, and what I think they should have done, is people should have questioned, well, your family, they might not be good people. Like, yes, maybe they just had to leave you for some reason. There's a good chance that your family, again, this is before we knew all the Palpatine shit. They could have been bounty hunters. They could have just been people that didn't want her. They could have done so much to build Rey's character to where if they wanted to go this route that she's turning more evil, more resentful, more untrustworthy and angry, have that be the sole focus of that. They just don't do any of that. The whole and it gets even more interesting when you have that lack of a parent figure and you introduce her to Han. And Han, think about Han's point of view. Han is this character that, by all accounts, basically abandoned his son Ben. Like, he apparently hasn't seen him in years. Like, he hasn't been a big part of his life. You have a character that was not a great father, with a character that doesn't have any parents. Let them, bond, have some.
There could be a lot of clash where it could be like, well, Rey's taking out anger at Han Solo, and Han Solo is also taking out anger at Rey because it's like she views him as a bad father, while he would view her as like a brat or something like that. They could have done something like that. No.
There's so much like interesting ways you could have done with all of the characters. Like, that's the thing, is I don't think these characters were just screwed from the beginning. Like, they had interesting places you could go with their characters that are set up. They take the time to set it up, just don't do anything with it, and it blows my mind. And so Rey, again, we just kind of see her. She meets BB-8. She saves BB-8. I also want to point out, I counted, Rey in this first movie knows 4 languages, which is kind of wild to me, especially when one of them's Wookiee. and Wookiees are basically extinct at this point.
And when you're on a desert planet, I have a lot of time to read.
I guess apparently maybe she found a Wookiee. She found
the weird one though.
yeah, she found a Wookiee like book in one of like the ATSTs or something like that.
Is that what it?
No, that's my guess.
Oh, okay.
That's my guess. Is that she found a Wookiee manual in one of these. Maybe like one of them were like.
It'd be like I'd understand if she knew most of the languages of the locals in the like the cantina.
Like droid, I get. She knows the language that were the people that were like capturing BB-8 makes sense. But the Wookiee one that makes no sense.
That one's the one where you're like, oh, okay.
Maybe show her interacting with a Wookiee on the Jakku. Maybe I'd believe it a bit more.
What it would have been cool if when she meets Chewbacca, she's just flabbergasted. Like, what is this thing? I feel like. She's never been off planet. That'd be more interesting. But they give that role to Finn.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like Finn probably would know more because if you're a trained soldier, I feel like you like recognize all these different people that are enemies. Like,
and Finn would
Wookiee's an enemy.
Finn, in my opinion, would be the one that actually would know Wookiee.
That's what I'm saying.
He's being trained by the First Order, and you would assume would have like histories of what the Empire did.
Yeah.
Things like that. There maybe would actually, yeah, there'd definitely be like a mention of Chewie taking down like the Empire, being a part of that, being a war hero. So he would at least know what a Wookiee is.
Rey should definitely be the one where it's like I didn't even know they could be this fuzzy.
Yeah, remember Rey is this character that's just like Luke, where she's been on the same planet her whole life. She's been on this like sand planet.
And then he says something in the later in the movie. She's like, I didn't know the galaxy could have this much green. It's like what?
It's like
you know Wookiee. you know Wookiee, but you don't know that planets can be green.
Well, okay, let's be honest here. At the same time, Rey thinks that Luke is a myth. It's been 30 years. He is a war hero. Took down the Empire. She's living on a planet that is a war-torn battleground.
It's like saying the Gulf War was myth. We don't know the Gulf.
It gets even worse when they meet Han Solo, and she's like, they're figuring out this is Han Solo. They're like, the smuggler. It's like, what? What do you mean, the smuggler?
Yeah, no, because Finn goes, Han Solo, like the commander of the rebellion or whatever.
Yeah.
And she goes, no, the smugglers.
Like, God.
Ronald Reagan, the actor.
There's some horrible dialogue. I mean, that's some of the horrible dialogue that makes no sense. But skipping to kind of the background stuff that they didn't really do, like they didn't pay off or anything. Rey ends up meeting Finn. Finn's been traveling. He's dying of
Drinks poo water.
yeah. He's dying of dehydration, and he sees Finn taking out these two people that try to basically jump her, and she beats them with her stick thing, which fair enough. I mean, they came at her unarmed, which it's kind of wild in my opinion, but you know, they deserved it.
But they came at her because
they were looking for BB-8.
Well, no, I think they came at BB-8 before they came after her, right? Because they threw a net on BB-8. Yeah.
No.
Is that afterwards? I'm pretty sure.
I know. All I know is that BB-8 was with Rey, and then Rey ends up starting to attack the two people because they attack her basically.
Okay, yeah, something like that.
It's something like that.
It don't matter.
It doesn't really matter. We just see that Rey can use her stick.
She got.
And Finn comes over and was like about to intercede, and then Rey handles it.
And
big theme of Rey can handle anything on her own. She don't need no man.
She don't. She got a stick.
That's true. She got a stick. And basically,
she's good at everything. She can speak all four languages.
Yeah,
and
we're not there yet. She's not perfect yet, but we're gonna get there. So BB-8 then looks at Finn.
Oh Jesus Christ! He's got the jacket.
He's a thief, and Rey is like starts running at him
on all fours.
And this is the funniest part: is like Finn is going in a straight direction away from Rey, and then we see that Rey gets in front of Finn, and Finn is now on the ground. And I'm like, I'm trying to work out the geometry in my head of how she somehow got in front of him. It doesn't make any sense, but it's a funny scene. It's not really like that impactful to anything, but it's just funny. Like
it's just another one of those interesting filming decisions where you're like, okay.
It's like, why don't we just have Finn trip on something, and then she just
or like a big old fat alien blocks his way, like
yeah.
Like, he taps his belly or something. I would have loved something like that.
So then BB-8 and Rey come over, and this is another thing I want to talk about. Is Finn as a character is not consistent whatsoever. He's either used as a joke or he's supposed to be a very serious character. It's so odd. Some situations, like, he's the butt of the joke. In other situations, it's like, I am Finn. I am deserted.
It's just too much Marvel quippiness.
I know.
Just like,
yeah.
It takes that happened, like those kind of things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, we crashed.
There's a perfect scene that I'm going to use in this video at some point. where we get to like how Rey knows how to do things, and that's exactly what Finn asks her, and she goes, "I don't know." It's like that's this movie. That's this movie.
That's the whole trilogy.
Yeah, that is the whole trilogy. But yeah, the two of them, and Finn's just like, yeah, I came with Poe, I helped him escape or whatever, and he died, and blah 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 blah.
I'm a member of the Resistance.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah,
that definitely goes somewhere.
I'm a Resistance member.
Yeah, and we see
which she knows. Like that's another thing where it's just like, how much outward knowledge of the galaxy does she have?
Well, she knows what the Resistance is.
That's what I'm saying. It's, I guess
because she's like, I've never met a Resistance person before, but she knows what it is. She doesn't question what the Resistance is. Yeah. So, yeah, let's just, and then we have our two famous stormtroopers that were sent on this mission.
Yeah. Okay. So wait, before we go in.
Yeah.
There's, back in the old days, these were never canon, but they were like little joke comic books called Tag and Bink. And they were it was like kind of like a Mad Comics, and it was the explanation of why everything happened in the Star Wars universe. Like, like something would fall over is because off screen Tag and Bink knocked it over. These two stormtroopers are Tag and Bink for people that get that reference.
Yeah. So we just see like a really interesting. I don't even know how to explain what happens here, because they are basically in this little like marketplace that we've seen a couple times. And then we see these stormtroopers approach, and they start shooting at them. And, of course, they miss. I mean, stormtrooper aim, fine. That carries over. Right, that's fine. But we see that this is a scene that I know has had a lot of controversy around it, is Finn grabs Rey's hand and, starts to, lead her away from them. And I think this is actually one of those moments that actually is good for both characters. Because Rey is this character that, why should the stormtroopers be coming after her?
Yeah.
She has no reason to think that anyone would be coming after her. And Finn is this person that, again, he knows what's up. He knows why these stormtroopers are here. And so it makes sense from that point of view that also Finn knows who the stormtroopers are. He knows what they will do. So he's the one that takes action, and he tries to help people, like how we saw with when Rey was initially getting attacked. So it makes a lot of sense. This is just Finn's gut reaction to help her. And then Rey not liking that also makes sense.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have no problems with her being like, "Don't grab my hand."
Yeah,
you're pulling her into this.
Yeah, I don't understand. There's people that make a really big this is one of those points where I'm not this is a bad plot hole. This makes perfect.
I think
sense.
It makes sense why she would be like, "Don't grab my hand."
And
I don't even fucking know you.
What's great is they actually pay this scene off, because by the end of this, where Finn takes her hand again and whatever, by the end of it, when Finn there's a shot from the TIE fighters that Finn basically is on his back and he's just he's out of it. And Rey gives her hand to him. It's one of those things where it's okay, I trust you now. I get it, because Finn was basically are you okay? Even though he's the one that gets shot and all this stuff, he's caring about her more than himself, which is something Rey has not experienced, right? Rey is someone that's been alone this whole time.
Literally abandoned.
She's been abandoned. She's someone that hasn't had that kind of social interaction, which is one of the reasons she should be untrusting. She should be somebody that just, again, would be very sketched out by somebody grabbing her hand. It's a great payoff to that, where we can see why Rey is doing that now. So we have all this.
Did you think great shout out to the TIE fighter pilots actually targeting spaceships?
Yeah,
they were landing, they were shooting the ones so they don't escape.
And of course, we have some jokes, about the Millennium Falcon being trash and stuff as they're running.
That's a pile of rust.
Yeah, and it's kind of when you think about it, you would think Finn would actually know what the Millennium Falcon is, but I guess maybe that wasn't as important.
Well, the only thing is, though, it's that's a common ship.
I guess that's fair. That's fair. But anyway, one way or another, they're getting shot. They get to the Millennium Falcon. They get in, and it's this nice scene. It's we're back in the Falcon. A little bit of that nostalgia, but still, it's nice to be back in there.
Back in the Falcon.
This is my biggest issue. Rey has never flown anything her entire life.
She wears pilot helmet.
We see her having a helmet.
That's where she gets her flying abilities from.
And she just starts doing maneuvers that it's just
it's wow. A force. It's the force in it.
It's wow. Okay. And I can't even lie. This is one of the best shot scenes. Visually, it looks very good. And I think a lot of the action for the most part in this movie is it looks good.
Usually,
visually.
One thing that Star Wars has done right and most situations is the air-to-air or ship-to-ship combat.
Yeah.
Even in The Last Jedi, there was some good moments that visually look good, even if they were stupid.
Yeah. And so we get this whole chase scene, and there's a lot of moments where I'm just okay, this just logically doesn't add up, but, you know, it looks cool, so whatever. I guess I'll give it a pass.
I did like the scene though. It just shows people struggling on this planet. Is that the moment a TIE fighter crashes, it instantly starts getting scavenged by people down there. Like that would literally be me. Just, what do you mean?
Well, I think it's like they go through. I don't even remember what they go through.
A Star Destroyer.
They go through the Star Destroyer again, and it's a narrow ass like corridor like this. The Millennium Falcon's a pretty sizable ship, and there's 2 TIE fighters. Neither one can hit him. I'm just like,
keep in mind, it's like we already did in Star Wars: A New Hope, the trench run, where we know when they start going down a straight path, they're gonna get shot down.
Yeah, like Luke was going to die if it wasn't for Han showing up.
Yeah,
so little sketchy, but okay.
That's what I'm. Dude, this First Order. This is all how we keep going back to. The First Order is just not menacing. They're as scary as a kindergarten bully because they just lash out in anger, for they have no talent, and no abilities.
And you know, even if they get off the planet, I want you guys to remember the First Order is sitting in orbit.
That's my biggest complaint with this movie, is that we know they're up there. We know they're up there.
And so we see Finn and Rey escape, okay? And again, this whole time, right? Rey is, you know, this is the first time piloting. He's basically just straight up saying how to fix the ship. There's just so many things.
She's doing wheelies in a spaceship.
It doesn't make any sense. We have been given no prior evidence to suggest that Rey would know how to do this. He's had very little interaction with anyone outside of Finn in this movie. She is someone that seems like a loner. He scavenges parts. Not mean she knows how the parts work. It does not mean she knows how to fix them or repair them. We're given none of that.
Even if she knew how to fix and repair them and do some, let's say, take off, there's no way she would know how to fly this the way she does. Because even, like, think about it, right? Poe is the best fighter pilot in the Resistance, and he still didn't know how to disconnect the cable from the TIE fighter off to the ship.
It's like, there's just things where I'm just like, oh my god, it's just Rey can have no flaws. She just can't.
Perfect.
And so they get out of the orbit. They get out of orbit of the planet. There's nothing. There's nobody there. Nobody's following her.
No, nobody intercepting. And then this is what blows my mind. We go out of the orbit, I swear to God, I think 5 minutes, and we instantly run into Han Solo and them, and just like jumping ahead a little bit. Han Solo, when they ask, where'd you get this ship from? They're like, oh, Jakku. I'm thinking to myself, are they still not in Jakku's orbit right now?
Yeah,
like,
they're literally right outside.
Why would he ask that? But then they're like, then Han Solo says to Chewbacca, he's like, I knew we should have checked in that sector of the galaxy more often. It's like, you're literally, I thought we're right there. When did we jump so far away? Like, how did...
There was no hyperspeed. Like, that was not shown.
I don't remember...
Unless there was a massive time skip that we're just overlooking.
But no, because think about it. There's like, this is what happens. They're like, oh my god, how did you do that? You're a perfect flyer. And then they have like a little moment, and then they break the moment with the ship's falling apart. They instantly go to fix it, and then Han Solo and them come aboard. There's like, they never did hyperspace unless I fucking missed it. With the deleted scenes, they went to hyperspace.
From what I can tell, they didn't.
That's what I'm saying. They
also remember this. Rey doesn't know where to take the ship until Finn and BB-8, like BB-8 tells them basically where to go.
And they can't do hyperspace because they had to take off that thingy, remember? That's how they get out of hyperspace in the first place, when they take off the bad motivator. So it's just like, how do you go from, you literally just left the planet's orbit, Han Solo comes onto the ship and he's like, where do you guys get the ship from?
Yeah.
The planet we're above? It's like, well, we're not above the planet no more.
Apparently the ship got stolen like 4 times. I don't know.
It's just like, it just doesn't make sense. It just, aren't you still above Jakku? Aren't there TIE fighters still coming right after you?
Apparently not. And I think the funniest part is, so Han Solo, we see him back in Millennium Falcon, and it's nice seeing him. It's a good, like, nostalgic moment. He's back in there.
We were home.
And Chewie's back there. You know, it's nice seeing him back in the cockpit or whatever. My problem here, and this is something that's like more of a Han character thing, is we just totally reverted Han's character.
He's a smuggler again.
What happened? Like,
midlife crisis. He jumbled down.
And there's nothing to explain why he went this life again. There's nothing.
No. Because,
and
that was the whole conclusion of Return of the Jedi, is you get the idea that he's settling down.
Yeah.
He's a semi-trucker again.
He's not like selfish or anything. Like, he's actually trying, you know, he helped the rebellion. You would have thought he would have been more involved. Nope, now he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care about the First Order that's being led by his son, apparently.
Maybe that's why Rey was like, Han Solo the smuggler did not bring it up.
Maybe. But that's like, I feel like that's such a common trend of the sequels. It's just like, All the original characters, yeah, they're old failures, and we don't care about them
Yeah.
anymore. It's just kind of what it
Yeah.
seems like.
It literally is. It's everything, and it's like you see them do that with the original trilogy characters. Why should I care about the sequel trilogy characters? Oh, because now I'm assuming you're just gonna make them all be old failures in the next one.
The original characters are very much vessels for our sequel characters. The original characters do not have character arcs in these movies. They do not have, like, they don't have anything that builds on their character. They're there for nostalgia.
And that's what kind of pisses me off, because, like, I brought up that quote in the last video, where it's like, oh, if we're bringing in the original trilogy characters, they're just going to steal the scene. I felt like they were so paranoid about them stealing the scene that they absolutely ruined the characters just to be like, okay, well, now they physically can't steal the scene.
Yeah, it's just... And this whole point, like, when we're going to see Han, Solo, Chewie, Rey, Finn, I feel like this is almost the weakest part of the film. It's the for me, it's the most forgettable part of the film.
Yeah, from here to Maz Kanata.
Yeah, because it's like, they have some people that are tracking down Han because he's been not paying off debts, and he's not been, like, doing jobs or something, which...
He keeps taking out loans, he's not paying back the loans.
Yeah. And it's just like...
Another Jabba Hutt situation.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I don't know, it's just okay, I guess. Again, Han Solo has just completely reverted. But then there's also these, I think it's like Death Squad is what they're called or something, where they're also knowing that the First Order put out a hit for the BB unit and the people that helped them escape.
This is the moment where you start to think, like, is the First Order actually a big thing? Because now these just random mercenary groups already have great contacts and seem to be in the pockets of the First Order. And you're like, wait, what?
But let's not also forget, they're still like less than like 10 minutes away from the First Order.
Yeah, like
As far as we know, as far as they have told us in this movie, they are like still like maybe a little bit outside.
There has not been no big time jump, and we've already encountered now 3 groups. The
like,
moment the ship took off the planet.
Can everybody find them except for the First Order?
Yeah.
And we see, like, I don't even remember what the monsters are called that Han had, but they
Butterballs.
They end up like killing both the people, the squads or whatever.
See that? I liked this part because I'm a sucker for like the kind of tight quarters, like giant monster, like basically like a minotaur inside the. What's that called?
The labyrinth.
The labyrinth, yeah, like a minotaur inside a labyrinth. It's kind of like that situation.
I thought it was fine, but it's just like, I don't know. I didn't really care about this part of the movie at all. It didn't really do anything for any of our characters. It did nothing. It was just like...
It's just a reason why they didn't get back in the
Millennium Falcon. It was just like an action scene because they need another action scene.
Oh, and then it's just another reason like, hey, First Order, come over here.
Yeah.
We know where the BB-8's at. It's like...
We see some First Order stuff where Kylo is informed that they got away.
And they're brooding a BB.
And this is one of the most mind-boggling parts to me for this movie, is that Rey and Kylo have this really... I don't know if it's their chemistry, or the lines are really weird, or just the writing. Kylo just comes off as this really edgy guy that's trying to find a girlfriend. Like,
it's trying too hard.
Because, like, this doesn't make any sense. So basically, one of the, I guess, officers tells Kylo that there's a girl with them, and Kylo's just like... A girl?
A what? A what?
It just
in
comes
Star Wars?
And then when we get later on, when Rey is captured by Kylo, it just feels like Kylo's trying to seduce her. It's just very weird. Like it's just
Got
so
some weird energy to it.
Yeah,
some weird energy to it.
It's, and especially when we go forward, this is not something that's going to stop.
The swallow energy gets swollen.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Is your shirt off?
Oh God, his shirt's off. But yeah, so we see like the First Order just incompetent. I think this is when they meet with Snoke for the first time. This is when we see Snoke for the first time after they escape. And Snoke again has this very menacing presence. He seems like the only character.
He's a big hologram.
That I'm like, okay, this guy seems like, we should take him seriously. He has more of that presence. And Hux and Kylo, they just don't have that presence. I don't know how else to explain it.
It's not intimidating. Because Snoke's an old man, and Hux and Kylo are not old men.
That's true. That's true. But even in this scene, like, Hux doesn't come off as like, oh, I'm the comedy relief character, or I'm this or that. We'll talk about in The Last Jedi. But, dude, I think, what even happened in the conversation?
I really don't remember much about this part of the movie, but to be honest.
I do not remember I don't think it had any consequences.
I think Kylo went to talk to Snoke about, like, I want to be stronger. Like the girl, that's another thing. And he's like,
Yeah, it's just
I think Snoke's like, well, this is just another trial test. I don't fucking.
the middle of this movie is very forgettable. That's all I'm gonna say. Not a lot really happens this little middle stretch. But then,
we still haven't seen Poe yet.
we still haven't seen
Poe
Poe
yet.
So then we're back with the crew, and Rey's being all cute, saying, "Oh yeah, I know how to fix the Millennium Falcon, and I know how to do these
And her and Han
things."
Solo are having this moment where it's like
They get Jinx. They do a Jinx.
they do a and she's like, you owe me a Coke, and he's like, we drink Pepsi in this ship, basically. But they kind of do a moment where it seems like, I don't know if anyone else felt this way, but I kind of felt it. It's like, are they hinting at that possibly that Han Solo's her father? Kind of like one of the, or like he's like taking her on as a kid, like
Yeah,
an
okay,
adoptive daughter kind of.
So
thing.
the way I found it is they were trying to do this idea that
I'm gonna stretch my leg out.
that Rey has not had parents, so they wanted Han Solo to kind of fill that gap and to put more emotional weight when Han eventually dies. But it falls through because the writing is not good between the two characters.
Yeah, it's like this is basically the extent of their discussions with each other. Is like, hey kid, if you're looking for a job, I may or may not give you a job.
Yeah. And Han comes off like he's just impressed by everything Rey does.
He's like,
And it's like, this is the same Han
you turn off the nightlight. How'd you do that?
that has been with Luke. Like, he shouldn't be, I don't know. And we get some things here that are, like, good. Like,
This is the point in the movie when Rey officially learns that all the legends of Luke Skywalker, all the legends of Han Solo, all of it's true. None of it's fake. And you're just sitting here wondering, why would they think it's fake? Because there was an empire 30 years ago. Not that long ago. It's only been 30 years. Now there's a government, and people in charge of the government, one of them is Princess Leia. And if there's Princess Leia's in charge of the government, you would think, oh, then you should know of Luke Skywalker, and then Han Solo would also be brought up because was the husband of Princess Leia. So you think these are all real factual characters. What inclination would she be like, oh, I thought it was all make-believe? That's when we learn about it right here. And now I'm going to wait for Eric to get back. So we're just going to sit like this for a little bit. Enjoying the channel? Good content. Grease Goblins, go ahead. Not subscribed to that one yet. Give that one a subby. Good Game of Thrones content on there. In fact, scroll all the way down to the first stuff and you get a little bit of Until Dawn in there.
another point, okay? I just want to bring this up. Finn knows that the Force is a thing. He's seen Kylo. So it's like, Finn could also back this up. He shouldn't be, like, shocked, but, like, even in the background, you see Finn, he's just, like gaping, like, homina. Dude, you just saw Kylo stop a blaster bolt. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
So
Your whole Order's foundation is like taking down the Luke Skywalker group.
yeah,
Like,
I think like Han is like talking to audience more than he's talking to the actual people in the room.
Yeah.
We also get some stuff that why Luke is missing. We get a little bit of like foreshadowing here. Like Han's like, oh well, he had a falling out. His school didn't go so hot.
Yeah.
There's some. We don't get the full like description of what happened, but there's foreshadowing to it. So that's good. I like that, they do try to build that up a little bit to pay it off. But yeah, that happens and they go down. What's the planet they go to?
Takodana.
They go there.
At Takodana.
They go there. And they meet Maz. Is that the character's name?
Maz Kanata.
Maz.
And she's also like another character. Basically, this trilogy's Yoda. She's like, well, she's 1,000 billion trillion years old.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
All
well,
right, fair enough.
Another Yoda character.
And we've also been getting this idea like Finn is someone that keeps basically putting up that he's with Resistance. Han kind of sees right through it, which makes sense for Han. I mean, he's been around a lot of people that are like, liars and stuff like that. So it makes sense that he knows and sees through it. But we kind of get this where it gets to the point where at the point of this like full section where they're talking with Maz, where eventually that's going to come to a head. And there's really no repercussions to it. Like, there's no fallout with Rey and Finn's relationship.
Whenever like Finn's like, I'm gonna go home.
Yeah, which makes sense. Again, all that makes sense that Finn wants to leave.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. That's my thing. There's a lot of points in the movie where I'm like, okay, Finn's character makes sense, but they do a lot of things that undercut Finn's character. And basically, the whole point of them basically going to Maz is to get them back to Resistance, to get BB-8 back to Resistance. And then Han, even at this point, when he realizes the First Order is a problem, all of this is a problem, he needs to help. he was still just going to take the Millennium Falcon with Chewie and just leave.
He's gonna be like, I found my 1960s Camaro that I've been
Yeah.
looking for.
So again, we just like, what happened to this character off screen that we just don't know? And so all of this happens, and basically they're like, yeah, we can do this or whatever. And we see that Rey is gonna eventually get the lightsaber. Does she get the lightsaber?
Rey, she's walking through the basement because she hears
Yeah.
like voices, and then this is where how we talked about earlier in the video, grabs it, and then she has a flashback of like Kylo Ren just cutting a dude,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, I guess that's all we're gonna get.
So we get a little bit, not a lot. They give us a little tease.
It's enough to make you intrigued as who are these people in all black robes and everything.
But at this point, does Rey get the lightsaber from Maz, or is it given to somebody else?
No, Maz takes it.
Oh,
Because
okay.
Maz gives it back. No, because then Maz ends up giving it to Finn because she's like,
Okay.
you have a weapon.
Oh, yeah. See, there's just one of this movie that I just forgot. I don't know if I just checked out at parts of this movie, but yeah.
This movie definitely has moments where it's like,
it has some very dead moments.
oh my god, okay. You can just keep going. This is a part I love.
So, I don't even know what. Just
Okay,
continue,
so
continue.
yeah. So basically, Maz Kanata, because she knows Finn wants to leave, she's like, "Let me see your eyes." And she looks into his eyes. She's like, "I see the eyes of a bitch. I've seen these in millions of men." But it's like, you talk to those people right there, and they'll go get you a job, and you'll get out of here. So Finn, it's like, "Oh my god, he's gonna leave."
I'm out.
Yeah, and then like, has a moment. He's like, "Ray, come with me." But however, like before this happens, when they first get there, we see like the Resistance and First Order agents both at work. Like there's a girl like alien. She's like, tell the First Order I see the BB droid. And then there's like another scene with a different droid. He's like, tell the Resistance we found the BB droid. So it's like, okay, so
It's like everything's about to go down.
This place like has everybody here apparently.
That's another thing. Why did they even bring BB-8 into this place? Makes no sense.
It's like they know that BB-8's like the most obvious thing here. Of orange
and apparently nobody knows who Han Solo or Chewie is, so you're fine there.
Other than Maz cannot. Oh, and that's another thing. Whenever they're like, when they first build up, before we meet Maz, Han Solo goes, as I was leaning back, Han Solo is like, let me do the talking. Maz is kind of an acquired taste, but then she ends up being like the most wholesome like bartender.
Yeah.
It's like I expected her to be a rude, brash kind of person. It's like, she gets straight to the point, like a grandma. Like, okay, that makes no sense. But so Rey, they do the lightsaber visions, and then the Resistance, not the Resistance, the First Order comes, and they just start blasting it. At one point, Han Solo gives Rey a gun, or he gives it earlier. I don't know, but she has
so
a
it's
gun.
basically when they land on the planet and they have the whole job application thing where Han's like, you can
have a job. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. You want a job? You want a summer job? I'll give it to you. And then he gives her a gun, and we go from there.
At some point, Rey goes running off into the wood, and I
can't for the life remember why. I don't remember if it was BB-8 went into the forest or something.
But we get this. I don't know what. But then we have like the great scene, with Finn, traitor.
That's later. That's the end of the movie.
No, Finn. No. The stormtrooper who says traitor.
The
stormtrooper that says traitor. And they do that fight. But Rey has a scene where she fights Kylo Ren inside the woods and whatnot, because she's like shooting stormtroopers. Yeah. But then she gets caught by Rey. She gets caught by Kylo Ren. Mm. There's this great scene that I think is hilarious, where it's Kylo Ren. I think he has Rey like captive at that point in the woods, and these two stormtroopers come walking up, and they look like they're two little kids asking their mom for a sleepover, because they're like, Resistance is on its way. Yeah, just the way they're standing, they're like looking up at him, like the two little kids are like, Resistance fighters inbound.
Yeah, they're
reinforcements.
They may be here.
Oh, that just happened. And then
also we see this is when Finn uses the lightsaber.
Yeah, he uses
the lightsaber. We actually see him foreshadowing that he is going to be a Jedi or something like that. He has some sort of powers. He's using it, and again, all of that happens with Luke talked about with like Kylo and Rey. Rey gets captured. They see them flying overhead, and they leave. And Finn's like, Rey, it's, whatever.
Keep in mind, this is the first time we've seen Poe.
Yeah, Poe. After this point, this is when the Resistance get here. This is the first time we've seen Poe. We have no idea how he got here, no idea what he's been up to, and when Poe and Finn meet back up, there's nothing. There's no what happened? Oh, I thought you were dead.
Well, they had like a moment where they kind of did have that, where it's like they're like hugging, what like I thought you were dead.
Yeah. Well, they have it, but they don't. There's no explanation. It's just like, I don't know.
I don't know.
It's again the Rey moment. It's like, I don't know. And so again, that goes back, circling back to where we were with like Rey and Kylo. Their scenes are just awkward. I feel like I'm like listening into something I don't need to be like listening into.
But a lot of weird energy.
It's a lot of weird energy.
I don't think that's specifically a Kylo Ray thing. I think that's just mostly a Kylo thing, where
Yeah, that's
most
true.
of his scenes, it's like that's kind of weird. Like,
He just comes off really weird. I don't know how to explain it, but like maybe I'll put a scene up with no audio or something, but just the way the interactions go. But that's besides the point. So
weird.
that's going on, but we see the resistance come down. We get some, everybody's back together. We see Leia comes down with the resistance, and Han meets up with her.
Leia for the first time.
C-3PO has a great moment, in my opinion.
Like, oh my god!
Yeah.
He's like, is it Han Solo?
It's a great moment where it's like, yeah, you have the drama being built up that Leia and Han are finally, back together, even though we have no idea why they broke up. We have no idea what happened there, but it's still a great moment where it's like you have comedy, but it's also drama, and it works really well. So like they could write comedy well, they just didn't in this movie.
Because C-3PO just makes for that kind of character.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He's always been that character where it's like getting in the shenanigans. C-3PO.
Yep.
I can't remember, but it's right around this time.
So
when they blow up the whole New Republic.
Okay, so either before or after Rey gets captured, we can't remember, but more or less they use the Death Star on the New Republic or whatever, and this is also when we get the Mussolini speech that Luke was talking about earlier, and it's not really that. Just
I don't even, what did he even say? Like, today's the day of the First Order.
The First Order of the bad guys. They're basically the Nazis. That's what they are. So basically, we see the New Republic killed in basically one shot of this thing. I mean, apparently nobody cares. The Republic is just gone now. It's basically like, okay, if you blew up Coruscant, and you're like, well, the Republic's gone now. It's like, yes, the House of Representatives is gone. All of their planets are still alive, and you just killed all of their representatives.
That's another thing. They're like, it was the Republic. It's like the Republic was 5 planets.
Like, there's no consequences to anything that happens in this entire story. And so that happens, and our characters see it. It's like a red thing in the sky. We can't remember if it's before or after when like the Resistance and First Order attack happens. Not Kylo, but Rey gets captured. So after this point, we start to move into this point where we need a rescue mission. Wow, a rescue mission at the end of a Star Wars movie.
Wow.
Man, it's almost like this has happened before with like Leia or something. Oh, okay. Well, let's jump back. So basically, Han, Chewie, and they're gonna go back. They're gonna get Rey and all of that. What they don't know is that Rey don't need no man, and she can escape by herself. That's what they didn't know.
They did not know that.
And if Han would have known that, he wouldn't have died. But
honestly,
but more or less that happens, and we get a good scene between Leia and like Han, where it's like bring our son home,
bring
or
that
whatever.
boy home, child. Bring that baby child home.
And it's like, okay, but at the same time, why haven't you tried to do this like years? So there's a lot of reasons where I'm like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about? Like, why is this happening now? I don't know. So they go off, and Rey, the person that just found out about the Force, like literally 20 minutes ago.
Mm-hmm.
She is someone that has not tried any type of Force powers, any training, anything else. He quite literally does the whole "you will release me" thing.
It's like, how did she even know that was an ability?
Nobody even told her that was an ability.
Say,
She thought Luke was a myth up until 20 minutes ago.
The whole thing was like the Jedi is like you learn what abilities you have and don't have, but like you learn it. She's like, I guess I have this ability. Like, how did you even know it was a thing?
It's mind blowing. It just, there's nothing here to explain that she would be able to do this, and she just breaks out.
Yeah,
she just breaks out, and then we see the other gang. I don't even remember how they even get in. Dude, I don't even remember.
I think they use because like Finn knows his way around Starkiller Base.
So Finn gets him in. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
And so they're kind of like, they're moving around in this base. Okay. Okay, so basically, we basically glossed over something that also, it was not only to rescue Rey, it was also to take the shields down so that they could destroy, the Death Star. But again, so they're going in here, they see Rey, she's like doing some climbing shit. Like she's
like climbing down.
Yeah. And they run into Phasma. And Phasma has been in a total of, I think, this is her third scene in the entire movie.
Yeah.
This hyped up villain that was in like all the trailers. There was like a bunch of like toys around it.
Silver Stormtrooper, like people are hyping that up. Like this is going to be
this was supposed to be like Finn's like enemy, I guess.
Yeah.
They take her out in the first movie. Like
we're gonna throw in a dumpster.
She's not dead or anything. She's gonna come back in the next movie and then be pointless in that movie.
But if you did, just going based off the first movie,
this movie, she's dead.
Based off this movie, like without watching anything else afterwards, you could assume she's probably dead.
Yeah, she's probably dead. So this is my thing with the antagonists of this story. All of them are completely like mitigated by the end of the story. Yeah. They except for Snoke. Snoke's the only character of like the four main villains that I think is not like completely destroyed by the end of the movie. And I'll get there when we get there because, we'll talk about Kylo. Hux, to me, just by the end of this movie, just comes off as just like, okay, he's just...
I don't know. No one cares about Hux. If someone says Hux is their favorite character in Star Wars, I'm just like, how is that even possible?
Hux isn't really, like...
He's not even a character.
He's just somebody who's just, like, there to give mean speeches. But then, later on, he's like, traitor. Get there is when we get there.
I'm just like...
That's a wild one. That's a real wild one.
Yeah, that one's just like...
Especially when he ordered to destroy the New Republic. I'm just saying, he was the person in charge of that. He was the one saying, we should try out the new... Yeah. Saying, when we get there.
Yeah.
But, so more or less...
deep insider.
More or less, they're going to try and get these shields down. They're trying to meet back up with Rey.
It had to be getting the shields down, right?
That had to be... Because that's the thing. They go up to blow, like, they go up to blow something up. That's the whole thing. I'm assuming that's like part to do with the shield.
I think because I may just be misremembering, but doesn't someone make a quote like, "Well, why not just do a torpedo down the exhaust fan like the Death Star?"
Yeah.
And then they go like, "Well, they've expanded since."
Yeah, they waited to get their shields down. That's a really convoluted thing. But sure. So they basically, they meet back up with Rey, and they're saying, "Okay, we're gonna go blow up this thing, and then that'll have the shields down, and then we'll leave, forever, right?" So they go to do this. And they end up running into Kylo. So we see Han and Chewie. But Han basically...
Yeah, they were setting satchel charges.
Yeah, they were setting satchel. They were trying to explode... I don't remember exactly what they were trying to explode. They were trying to explode something that would help the shields go down. I don't know.
Beam.
Something. And Han is talking with Kylo. And they're trying to build up the scene like, oh, maybe Kylo's going to come back to the light.
I know what I must do, but I don't have the strength to do it.
Yeah, the iconic
Will you help me?
And like, I want to point this out from like Kylo's point of view. Here's this dude, okay, that is your father. You probably haven't seen him in at least like, what, 12, 15 years? Like, not since like you were probably extremely young. Yeah. And he comes up to you and he's like, he doesn't apologize for like leaving you or doing anything like that. He's just like, not too late for you. You can come back to the light side. Why would he come back to the light side? Pan, you have treated him like a dick.
His uncle, just because he had that's never mind. That's the next movie. That's the next movie.
And like, there's like, I'm just sitting here like, I'm just like trying to be in Kylo's shoes, and I'm like, honestly, don't blame Kylo for killing Han in this situation. Like, honestly, I'd murk him too. Like,
it's just like,
and Han dies without ever seeing Luke again, and
we never got from this point on.
Him and Leia barely had any time together either.
They cemented the inability to now have all three, four, including like Han Solo, Chewbacca, all four main characters on screen at the same time.
And I know Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to die off.
I know,
but it was not handled in the best way, in my opinion.
I wanted one last meeting between him and Luke Skywalker.
That's the whole point. Is like, Luke should have been in this movie. I get what they were trying to do, and I think it still could have made sense the way they did it. But I think he should have been in the movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because up to this point, the only thing that we saw of Luke is just his hand resting on R2-D2 in a flashback.
You don't see him at the very end looking very grim. But yeah, so that happens, and it's just an odd scene because it's like you have Finn and Rey who barely know Han Solo at all. Like they don't really have any relationship with him. It wasn't. They didn't really build that up enough, in my opinion. It doesn't really feel. It doesn't hit the heartstrings of, say, like other characters in the scene. It's not as emotional. And and my other thing is, like, I think Chewie, if we're just going off of like real reality, I think Chewie would have probably tried to kill Kylo. At this point. He does injure Kylo, so that's something to like point out.
Chewie would have done General Grievous dog mode.
Yeah,
down
he would
all
have.
fours. Because the whole Wookiee rage, ripping arms off. You're telling me like,
it's just So not
if they
really
wanted
handled.
I think if they wanted to kill Han Solo, they had to kill Chewie at the same time, just to make it look like they're always together. They went down together.
I think it would have been way more tragic.
That's if you're killing Han Solo. That's if you want to go that route.
Yeah, and I think this again, if we had built up Rey and built up Han's relationship more and built into Rey more, they could have leaned as this being another motivation as to why Rey would go more evil.
What if they would have done something like this, where it's like the movie ends with like Chewbacca taking off after Kylo, and that's like kind of like the last we see of Chewbacca, and then it's like the next movies we find out that he may still be alive.
Yeah,
they could have done something like that.
That would have been cool. There's so many, And again, during this whole point, we then see Poe, and they end up taking out Star Killer Base, and
Hux wasn't like Hux in the command position that ship. I mean, a Star Killer Base.
He was something, and he escaped somehow. I don't know
That's
how
another
he escaped.
thing,
I don't know how Kylo escapes either.
Oh,
they just escape.
New Hope. Vader escaped because he was already in the TIE Fighter. In this movie, Tarkin died because he was on the Death Star. In this movie, they go, everybody on the Star Killer Base, the Death Star, even though it blew up and you're on it, you also got to a ship.
And this is my whole issue, is that when we get to The Last Jedi, and this again has nothing to do with Force Awakens, because this is Last Jedi's fault more than it is Force Awakens. At this point, they should be crippled. That was their main base of operations.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people should have died here. Like, Snoke should be the only person, like, in my opinion, that's still a thing for the First Order. Instead of, like, whatever ships were not on planet or anything.
Snoke was just a hologram, so yeah, he definitely could have been like,
and it just ends on a point where you even look at, like, the Resistance, like, they have a decent amount of people. It's not like, it's a ship full of people. It's just like, there's a lot of people.
Yes.
But again, that's gonna be another part. And this movie just like
takes it out of you, man.
There's another part of this where it's like Rey ends the movie. She takes the map by herself, goes to Luke.
Why would Princess Leia not go?
Oh, we didn't even talk about like the Kylo and Rey face off and the Finn face off.
Dude.
But so let's go back, because this is probably the worst part of the movie for me. Is that so they're basically escaping. When Han dies, they're escaping, they're leaving, and Kylo tracks him down, and he knocks out basically Rey at one point, and Finn starts to fight Kylo. And Finn should be dead. Finn is someone that has no experience with a lightsaber. I don't care if Kylo's injured. I really don't give a shit. Kylo has been trained his entire life, apparently by two really powerful people, going off of this movie, not future. By Snoke and then of Luke. And he's struggling with a stormtrooper with a lightsaber. It takes more to wield a lightsaber than just, like...
Gotta use a force freeze at any moment.
Could have done that as well.
Gotta use a force freeze.
And then Kylo eventually just slashes him straight through, like, the spine. Like,
yeah, it looks like he carves him like a turkey. Like
he's gonna be dead or paralyzed. Can't move.
Yeah.
And he's just gonna be completely fine as we go forward. And then, so then we have this little thing where Rey and Kylo are trying to get the lightsaber because the lightsaber has fallen. And they're both pulling at it from the same direction, so I have no idea why it's taking so much force for the lightsaber to come out. They're pulling from the same direction. And then the lightsaber goes past Kylo, because, okay, so imagine, like, I'm like this.
If you're like this, and I'm behind you.
I basically, so the lightsaber's coming like this. The lightsaber's coming. Kylo goes like this.
He dodges out of the way. It's like, bro, dude, okay, so
what?
Why wouldn't he, like, lean into it and catch it if he was also pulling on it?
It doesn't make any sense. And then Kylo's just in here like, she's more powerful than me.
What?
Think about if they had done that in the first movie, A New Hope, with Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Luke doesn't even bother fighting Darth Vader because George Lucas and us, the audience, know Luke ain't ready for this. He's gonna get his ass kicked. He gets his ass kicked in the next movie with training.
Yeah, with training, still gets his ass kicked. Third movie, finally wins. In this movie, we go right off the bat.
And this is the point: is that
Farm
Rey
Girl wins.
Rey completely kicks Kylo's. It's not even close.
Not even close. Absolutely decimates
Rey
him.
could have easily. I don't know why she doesn't. Just take her lightsaber, right in his head, kill him. Why? Like, and this is my whole problem: is that now this is something that Force Awakens does, not the rest of the movies. Kylo to me now is no longer an intimidating character. A character I should take seriously. He's a character that's completely laughable. I do not care about this character.
He's a whiny kid because the first time you see him, he gets Marvel quipped to his face. The next time you see him, he's just slashing up computer terminals. The final time we see him, he's getting beat up by a stormtrooper and then absolutely decimated by a scavenger girl.
So I want to compare this to the end of A New Hope to the end of this movie. And I want to look at our main 4 villains. So our main 4 villains on our character list. Kylo. By the end of this movie, Kylo has been defeated. He is injured pretty badly. He probably should have died. And he's been defeated by Rey, our main character with no training. Barely knew the Force even existed. Hux is a character that should probably be dead and also is incompetent as hell, has shown really no reason to have any fear of him whatsoever throughout this movie. Snoke is the only character that has kind of been held intact. That's because we really haven't gotten much with him.
Can't really say much about Snoke because
he's just like a looming, menacing presence.
Pulling the string, like literally the same person that Darth Sidious was in the original trilogy.
Yeah.
Snoke's.
And then we get Phasma, and Phasma has 3 scenes, and one of them she is presumed dead. So 2 of the 4 characters by the end of this movie you could logically say are dead. Kylo, you could probably make an argument that he should probably die too. So there's 3 out of the 4 that you could say, okay, maybe they should have been dead here. So that is where I will sit and give The Last Jedi a somewhat of a pass, where it's like, okay, a lot of the villains have been basically desecrated by the end of this movie.
Yeah.
So I will say that, but they then pick the only villain and they just
make sure he's dead.
Yeah. So
out of all the people who should have died here, the next movie they kill the one who wouldn't.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense because Snoke in this first movie is built up as like our end game boss.
He's the Thanos of this trilogy.
Yeah. And that's just not gonna happen, and that's not a problem of this movie, but yeah. And yeah, so the movie just ends on this really weird moment now where Rey beats Luke.
R2-D2 wakes up, we see R2-D2.
Oh yeah, so that's the other part of the map, which whatever. So we're going to see Luke. And we get to this point where, again, I really don't understand why Rey is the only person going to see Luke. Like, Leia is still a character. Oh, and Chewbacca, right, and Chewbacca.
And BB-8.
Yeah, that's true, right.
But not R2-D2.
But not R2-D2 or not Leia. It's kind of weird to me. It's like Leia would be...
Wait, did R2 actually go with him?
I don't know.
I think...
Oh, R2 did.
No, I think R2 did go, because I think doesn't he, like, good to see you, old friend?
Why does everybody but Leia go?
I don't remember. Does R2 go? Put it in the comments.
Because I'm thinking again of the scene where, like, Luke is, like, with his hand on R2, so I don't know. I don't remember.
That's a fact, but I just, like, I feel like in Last Jedi, doesn't Luke Skywalker see R2 as, oh.
I don't know. That, for the comments. But why Leia doesn't go to me doesn't make any sense to me.
What better do you have to do? The Republic's dead.
Like, the Republic's dead. It's like,
go and help reason.
And then the other thing is, like, this scene where, like, Luke is, with the lightsaber where Rey is giving it to him, that's there just so that they can say Luke's in the movie. In my opinion,
literally the last 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. Basically, the intro for the last video is basically Luke. He doesn't say a single thing. He's just there. He looks like he's just, like, constipated.
He's pissed off.
And that's where we end.
He looks like he doesn't want to be found.
Okay, so Luke, after that whole discussion, what would you give the rating of the movie?
Like now, or how I felt about it back then?
Now.
6 out of 10. 7 out of 10.
I think my opinion, after just, like, thinking about the movie more and more and then doing this, has kind of lowered it. But I do want to give them props where things were, like, solid. Like, I think, again, visually, for the most part. But I think the lightsaber combat, by the way, at the end, I can't say the word. Choreography, okay. It was not very good, in my opinion, in the last like, lightsaber fights. Like, it looked sloppy.
I didn't mind it, though, because I think it looking sloppy looked more realistic because they never use lightsabers.
I guess, but then at the same time, like, Kylo has used lightsabers.
That's the thing, like, it looks sloppy, but they still made Kylo lose. Like,
it's just weird.
Because, okay, so, like, the whole... Kylo escapes because the ground in front of them cracks in half and he's stuck on one side. They should have had him win and our resistance members get away because the ground cracks in half and they're on the other side.
That's what they should have done. I was thinking at times the editing was kind of weird to the movie.
But about I like the practical effects when they brought back using puppets and whatnot.
Yeah, that was
animatronics.
good.
I like that.
I liked that. I thought the music was good. I don't think it was like fantastic or anything, but I think it did its job.
Yeah, I thought it was good.
I thought it was serviceable. I think it, when it needed to be like kind of darker tone, it was good. When it needed to be heroic, when it needed to do the callback music, did the callback music. I think it did pretty well.
I'd still give this just a 7 out of 10, just because like this of the sequel trilogy to 3, this is the only one I'd actually go back and watch again.
I give this movie a 5 out of 5, or 5, not
5 out of 5.
Sorry.
Holy!
I give this movie a 5.5 out of 10.
Maybe 6. I don't know, because 7 does seem a little.
Because like
I'll give it.
Fundamentally, the story just doesn't work for me. Like there's the things I like about this movie are not things I like in movies.
I think it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I would say at times it's pretty fun.
It's fun.
Outside of the middle part.
Yeah, outside of like most of the characters, the motives, and the middle part, it's a fun movie.
Yeah, when nobody's talking and nobody's like, it's fine.
Dude, are you actually like gonna edit this whole video?
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh, you gonna do an outro?
All right. Done? This is the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed. This was a long video. Yeah, this movie. It had problems. That's the things we liked.
Dude, and this was like the better one of the three.
Yeah,
dude, and this was already like almost 2-hour video. Holy.
The Last Jedi is gonna be long. I can tell you right now, The Last Jedi is gonna be a long video. Rise of Skywalker, I think, will be the shortest. Lads, I'm just saying, I think Rise of Skywalker is gonna be the shortest because I think we're gonna be burnt out from Last Jedi that we're not even gonna talk about the last one.
Yeah, I feel like we're gonna let a lot of stuff slide.
I mean, yeah. But thank you guys all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and we'll be back with the dreaded Last Jedi.